Star Wars Tabletop Gaming is proudly supported by Gatekeeper Games, your key to gaming unplugged. A tabletop games store offering a friendly atmosphere for people to buy and play their games in the north of Fitzroy. Welcome to episode 5 of Star Wars Tabletop Gaming. Today we're going to be discussing order cards. For those that don't have a good idea of what these are, essentially every turn that you take, both players pick 2 cards out of their hand. You start with 7 and you discard them as you go, except for one, which we'll talk about briefly. So you pick a card each secretly, and then you play it at the same time. And the idea is, or you reveal it at the same time, and you're trying to compete against each other with your order cards. Firstly, for the amount of units that you're picking, and secondly, for the initiative value. If you really need to go first, you're going to pick one with a low initiative. And if you want to have more control of your units, you're going to pick one with more orders. And the two things are connected. Essentially, the lower the initiative, usually the less units you get to activate. Each leader also have their own order cards, which we'll show you soon. And in the core set, that means Luke and Vader come with their own set of orders. So, without any further delay, let's get into the order cards. So to start with, I'm just going to go through the basic orders that come, and these are generic and applicable to both the Rebels and the Imperials. So first up, we have standing orders. As you can see, that has an initiative of 4, and it lets you give orders to 1 unit. Now, orders are given from your commander, and it's within 18 inches of your commander. When you command, that units have to be within 18 inches to get orders. So from what we understand, when your leader's dead, you can no longer give orders. That's not confirmed, but we'll say it anyway. So standing orders is unique in that at the end of the command phase, you return the card to your hand, whereas all other orders you discard. So essentially, if you're in a phase of the game that's not that important and you don't really mind too much and you don't want to burn one of your other cards, use this one. We found in our game that using this in the first turn was really handy, and it comes back to your hand if you need to use it later on, but it's obviously rubbish. Next up, we have Assault. This has an initiative of 3, and it has 3 units that are allowed to get orders. So the text reads, though slower to organize, a coordinated offense can be decisive. So the idea here is that you want to give 3 of your units orders. Now, what giving them orders means is that you know exactly when they're going to activate. So units without orders have random activation. That is, you take their tokens or their unit type tokens. For instance, Rebel troopers have the troop token or whatever it's called, and it means when you draw it, you could do any unit of Rebel troopers. But there are obviously speeder bikes are different to your stormtroopers. So this one here lets you give it to 3 units, any 3 units within your command radius, and that means you're having really solid control, the most control for any order card over your army. So maybe you really want things to activate in a certain way to put overwhelming firepower onto the enemy. Push, it follows the standard of initiative of 2 units, just like the last one was initiative of 3 units. So this one's a little bit quicker, but still with a little bit of control. So this one reads, a tactical strike between 2 synchronized units is a key component of warfare. So this might be a bit of a 1-2 maneuver that you're really keen to get off at the start of a game turn in regards to pinning down and then flanking a particular unit with a couple of your own. So push is pretty good. 2 is getting up to that quite fast area, only 1 only being faster, obviously. So I think push is going to be a really important card on when you play it, because making sure you have control of 2 units can be very significant in the strategies and tactics of the table and what that can look like, especially because when units are pinned, they can only take 1 action. So you're going to want to pin the enemy first before they get to activate. With suppression, but that's complex strategy, which we'll discuss another time. So ambush is the fastest or equal fastest of your order cards. It has 1 initiative and you activate 1 unit. It reads, a well-placed unit with the element of surprise on its side can turn the tide of an entire battle. So the idea here is that you've got 1 super important unit and you want to get that off at the start of your turn, no matter what. So maybe Vader, you're playing Imperials, and Vader is a bit low on health and he's close to some units and you just want to get him in there before he gets shot at. So you play ambush. You give an order to only Vader, and you get to go first because of your low initiative. Interestingly, if you both play a card with the same initiative, we believe it's the blue player, that is the player who brought the least amount of points to a game, that then gets to go first and gets the advantage. So keep that in mind when building your list, just like X-Wing, I guess. So that's a nice, clever little mechanic to give advantage to list building and thoughts that go into list building. So ambush will be vital to making sure you're getting the unit in to battle when you need it to. Now, we've started to move on to the leader unique cards. So here we have Return of the Jedi. It's a order that belongs to Luke Skywalker, and it reads, when Luke Skywalker is issued an order, he gains 1 dodge token. When Luke Skywalker activates, each friendly trooper unit at range 1 to 3 of him may remove 1 suppression token. It's got an initiative of 3, and it gives orders to Luke Skywalker and 2 units, which is huge. That's a lot of orders, and it's got a really good ability. So when Luke Skywalker is issued an order, so this happens at the start of your turn, so keep that in mind. He gains a dodge token. Now, dodge tokens are super good for Luke and also for Vader because they have the power deflect, which means that while they have a dodge token, they can use it to actually deflect the enemy's shots back at them. So if an enemy gets a successful hit on Luke, in this case, when he has a dodge token, they could then take that wound if he chooses to spend it. What this is going to do is stop people from firing at Luke because there's the threat right from the start. So even though this is a slow order and your enemy's probably going first, it'll still deter them from shooting at Luke because of that dodge token. The added bonus, of course, is that when he activates, friendly trooper units are losing suppression tokens. How powerful losing 1 suppression token is, we're not really sure at the moment, but I think it's going to be significant to bring units that may have been pinned down from that, especially because the enemy isn't going to want to waste extra firepower giving unit suppression tokens above and beyond what they've already got if they're already pinned. So keep that in mind. I think this is going to be a really good card, and suppression is going to be super important with strategy. Dodging, non-suppression, good card. All right, the next card that Luke gets is My Ally is the Force. So it has an initiative of 2, and the orders go to 2 troopers. So you'll note that the previous orders cards we've had have said units specifically or the commander's name. This one, that means they can be given to any type of unit. This one says it must be troopers. So it's going to be your rebel troopers in the core set that can only be given orders, or Luke himself, who is also a trooper, from this ability. Or this order card, I should say. Initiative of 2, pretty fast, but restricting in that you couldn't use it to give your AT-RT an order, for instance. So it reads, when a friendly trooper unit is issued an order, it gains 1 dodge token. So we're seeing a bit of a theme in that the Rebels order cards are focused on defensiveness or defensive abilities. So that dodge token, while it's good for Luke, and you can give it to him with this order, you can also give it to one of your Rebel trooper units. And Rebel trooper units have the special ability or the text nimble, which means that when they use a dodge token, they automatically get it back. So if your unit's getting shot at by multiple enemies, it means you can negate a few hits over a few different enemy activations, which is really powerful. And giving this to Rebel troopers is kind of the point, I guess. And it means when a friendly trooper unit is issued an order against... Yeah, okay, fantastic. So that means you could give it to 2 different trooper units, 2 different Rebel troopers, and it's once again, it's at the start of the turn. So that means your Rebel troopers are starting with dodge tokens, which is super powerful. So you don't have to worry about them activating early. You can hold them back a little later because they've already got that dodge token, which is really great. And it means you can use their own 2 actions that they get to use in their own activation for aiming and firing. Instead of being, dodging every turn, they can aim, fire while having this dodge token from the start. So super defensive, super useful, and getting those free tokens at the start of a turn is going to be really powerful and really useful for negating enemy firepower. All right, next we have Son of Skywalker. This is the powerful one, the big beastie card. So it's got 1 initiative, and it has to be given to Luke Skywalker. So the order reads, after Luke Skywalker performs his first attack, he may perform 1 additional attack. This is huge. It's very powerful. His attack in close combat, for those that aren't aware, has 6 black dice, which is very nice, especially if he's got an aim, which allows him to reroll some of those dice. So the idea is you have your 2 actions for him. You use 1 action to charge in, or if you're already in close combat, fantastic. And then you get to attack, or you'd probably aim, then move, use your charge ability to attack, and then get another attack. So in total, you're going to be rolling 6 and then 6, but 12 black dice, essentially. Now, I can't tell you the exact statistics on that, but I can tell you it's very high. I believe Luke has a... Ooh, does he have an offensive surge? I'm not sure. Either way, it's something like 6 out of 8 chance that you're going to hit / cause a crit. Which is really good. So, sorry, 4 out of 6 or 5 out of 6. Oh, for the dice. Yeah, okay. So either way, when you get 12 black dice, you're talking in the range of 8 to 9 hits / crits. So you're going to be wiping out whatever you're attacking. If you're able to get through its armor with Luke, because of his pierce ability on his lightsaber, you will be able to. So you want to use this maybe when you're going into a really meaty troop unit, or you're going up against a tough vehicle, which we haven't seen yet on the Imperial sides. But when an AT-ST is out there, this is going to be the perfect order to charge in before it shoots at you and just absolutely tear it apart. And because he's attacking twice, he gets to use that pierce ability essentially, each time. So you're going to be doing a whole lot of damage to vehicles, and also, of course, a whole lot of damage to troops. It may be overkill to use this ability to charge into a rebel trooper unit. Probably won't be necessary. But look, if you really have to wipe it out to claim an objective or something, this is the one to use. Holding these really powerful really powerful orders back will be the difference between a good commander and a frivolous one. All right, here we go. We're on to Darth Vader's cards. So these are the ones that come specifically with Darth Vader in the core set, and the first one reads Master of Evil. It has an initiative of 3, and Darth Vader and 2 units are the ones that can be given this order. So you have to give it to Vader, and then you can give it to another 2 units. And it reads, when Darth Vader is issued an order, so that is at the start of the turn, he gains 1 dodge token, just like we saw with Luke before. When Darth Vader activates, each enemy trooper unit at range 1 to 2 of him gains 3 suppression tokens. So this is the flip side of what we saw with the Rebels, and it is huge. So 3 suppression tokens on a trooper unit will, if the trooper unit's taken a couple of casualties, will probably be enough to pin it. And that is bring it down to 1 activation. Now, you're not going to be going first, most likely, with an initiative of 3, but if you can get Vader close in range 1 to 2, that's about 12 inches of some Rebel trooper units, you're going to be able to pin them down and really diminish what they're able to do for that turn. So, really powerful, really impressive. When I used it, it was excellent. I kind of had him right in the right place at the right time, and I was able to put the pinning tokens on 2 Rebel trooper units and Luke himself that were all within 12 inches, range 1 to 2, let's not use inches in this game, of Vader. And look, if you've already got suppression tokens on them, this could then be the impetus to make them flee. So if you activate Vader, second, or as your first unit, causing units to flee at the start of a turn will be really powerful, and it will come absolutely out of nowhere. So I really like Master of Evil. I think it's actually my favorite card for Vader. The tactical depth and strategy behind this card, I think, are going to be really significant, and 3 suppression tokens seems like a lot, especially when the flip side of Luke is that he removes only 1 suppression token. So, I don't know, 3 to 1 seems a lot more powerful, and it gives us the Imperial theme of being offensive, as opposed to the Rebels, who are defensive. I also have to say, you've got to love that art on that card. That's pretty dang cool. All right, moving on. Next we have Vader's card called New Ways to Motivate Them. It has an initiative of 2, so a little bit faster, and you have to give it to 2 troopers, reminding you that a trooper includes Vader himself, so it could be Vader and a Stormtrooper unit. And it reads, when a friendly non-Darth Vader trooper unit with a face-up order token activates, so that's your Stormtroopers that you've given the orders to, it may suffer 1 wound to perform 1 free action. Okay, so This is interesting. So you've got to give it to your stormtroopers, which mean, well, that's who you want to give it to essentially, because that's how you get your free actions. Which means one of them's going to die. So this is Vader, cutting them down or force choking them to make them go a little bit harder. And the idea is that when you'd want to use that is when your stormtroopers aren't quite in position. So the thing about stormtroopers is that their aim is rubbish. Because they use white dice. However, they have the ability precise, which increases the effectiveness of your aim tokens when you give them an aim action. But if you need to move them into cover and then shoot, you don't have that extra action to give them the aim in the first place. So that would be the perfect time to use new ways to motivate them. I apologize for that. My cat's coming in and meowing away. Go away, cat. All right. So you use this, you give it to your stormtroopers. That allows you to, though one of your stormtrooper dies, it allows you to get them into cover perhaps quickly because it's got good initiative. Allows them to give them that free aim, or you could use, I guess, the free action for movement, and then shoot. So you get to move, aim, shoot, which means those white dice that they've got are going to be a lot more effective because you get to reroll 3 of them because of their ability precise. And that's a whole lot better than rerolling none of them, especially if you're giving your stormtroopers particularly powerful weapons, maybe that you really need to go off. But we'll talk about that when we get to the upgrade cards next time. So that is new ways to motivate them. The 2 initiatives, so quite fast, and ones you want to be giving to your stormtroopers. And this kind of shows the interaction between your leaders and your regular units, and kind of how they're going to synergize. So we'll see different commanders being useful for different units, I guess. And Darth Vader is best for stormtroopers. Maybe. We'll see. All right, and finally, we have the big powerful card for Vader. It is called Implacable. It is initiative 1, and the order has to go to Darth Vader. And it reads, at the end of Darth Vader's first activation, he may suffer 1 wound to shuffle his order token into the order pool. During Darth Vader's second activation, he performs 1 fewer action. Okay, so this one, it's interesting how this is different from Luke's. So Luke's is that he just gets to attack twice. This one is that Vader gets a whole new activation. However, you perform 1 fewer action. Luckily, Vader can move and then get a free attack, so keep that in mind. But you have to suffer a wound to do it, which is another one of the Imperial's themes, is that people are getting hurt and dying, or Vader's choking them out, or enraging, if you will, to get advantages, whereas the rebels are defensive. The Imperials are happy to take some casualties to achieve their objective. So the idea here is when something really needs to die, this is when you pull it out. And because it's initiative 1, you're probably going to be going first, and you're going to be going first with Vader, and it's going to be chopping stuff up. So I used this to take down the AT-RT in 1 turn, which was epic, because of course Vader is rolling his 6 red dice. Very powerful, so whatever you need to die using this order is probably going to die. It's a little slower than Luke's ability because you have to, once you've used him the first time, you actually take his token and shuffle it back into what's remaining. So if you want to use him at the start of your turn, you then shuffle his order token back in, and it might not be until 2 or 3 activations later that you pull it again. So this one can't quite be relied on to shut something down instantly. But I mean, maybe you can use it to chomp through a couple of different trooper units. If there's some objectives, maybe you want to use this later in the game when you've got less units left on the table. So the fact that it gets shuffled back in won't be as detrimental, because if it's being shoveled back into a pile of only 1 or 2 other orders, you're going to be able to have more control over it. So something to consider there. The performs 1 fewer action. I mean, that hurts a little, but keep in mind that your force commanders, or your force using commanders, I'm sure there'll be ones that don't, can have force powers, and force powers can be used for free at different times of the game. And Vader's is especially powerful, his force powers, because he gets to ready them for free, whereas Luke has to perform actions to do so. So that 1 few action, sounds like a disadvantage, but there's certainly ways to get around it and still get the most out of this order and out of Vader. And that is all for this episode. Hopefully that's given you a bit of an insight into how Orders Cards works and how they'll be interacting with your games. It's a whole nother mini game, I guess, and it creates that tension that I so enjoy of X-Wing, where you don't really know what your opponent's going to do, and you're doing, making a bit of a a guess or a gamble with what you're choosing, and trying to outthink them and outplay them with a bit of a mind game. So really cool aspect of Legion. And I think as we see more powerful order cards from different commanders, will be extremely significant and have real big impacts on the game. On our next episode from Star Wars Tabletop Gaming, we will be looking at upgrade cards. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video, and until next time, may the Force be with you.